INDYCAR is underway for a special race. For the first time in 15 years, a non-championship event. Welcome to the Thermal Club and the $1 million challenge. And it's an open test session. Cars can head out to the track now anytime over the next 2 hours. Let's hand over to NBC.
Honda, and you qualify second, fastest lap in qualifying. You have a good race run. How much does that kind of ease your mind that, okay, this is a good fit for me?
Oh, it's a huge confidence boost for all of us at Meyershank Racing, and I think, you know, St. Pete is a street track. It's something we know that we're good at, so I wouldn't say, you know, we still have to experience road courses and ovals, and there might be different challenges there. You know, we simply don't know. I think this will be a little indicator, obviously, here in Thermal, but no, it's great, and I think that was the kind of boost we wanted going into the season. But we still have our targets set realistically. We don't think we're gonna, you know, we're not like we're gonna win the championship or anything like that yet. So we're just calm, and if we can continue to do top 10s, that's good for us, and that's, you know, a good solid target for us. But yeah, when you're up there, you obviously get more hungry, and you're like, hey, we want to play with the big guys, and that's ultimately our target long term. So, but yeah, we take it easy and keep building and doing what we're doing and focus on ourselves, and I think we'll be in good shape.
Thanks, Felix.
Thank you.
If you ever wondered what kind of a guy Felix Rosenqvist is, that's it right there in a nutshell. He's humble. He doesn't regard himself as one of the big guys. But there is a fire that burns in that guy, and we have not still seen the best of Felix Rosenqvist. It's coming, and it could be this year.
And I'll add another characteristic to his personality: rational, practical. What he just said is so important as a driver that's right in the midst of the prime of his IndyCar career, which is realistic expectations. Hey, let's keep knocking out these top 10s. That's progress for the organization.
Yep.
He knows that you can't go from 3 to 10 overnight. He's not saying that we're not going to be happy unless we're winning every race. He's all about the methodical approach, and I think that's huge for the Meyershank team at this point in the evolution of their race team, is that practical, stable, methodical approach.
Let's show you a couple of replays, and one involves this guy here, Scott Dixon in the PNC Bank Honda. Check this out.
So this is exiting.
Boom.
Rosenqvist called the triple hander. And that's just a little kicker right there, Diff, a little whoop.
It's a little up, yeah, just slightly airborne, enough to, it's another one of Stingray, Rob. This is a separate incident again. About the same again. How big would you feel that in the cockpit?
You know, it didn't look like from that really great slow-mo shot that it's casing that much. You know, it's not bottoming out on the floor, so it didn't look like too hard of a hit, but I promise you, you feel it. And that's just the driver shortcutting that section. That's right here in turn 17. And you see that little snake. They're just shortcutting and straightening out that section. It's the triple hander, so they're talking about a triple right-hander with 3 apexes through that section. It's a pretty cool section to finish the lap. And as Rosenqvist said, this place is busy as Stingray Rob works through turn 9.
See, you're referencing turn 9 over there. Just give it a circle turn 9 for the viewers and listeners. Do you remember when F1 raced at Turkey at Istanbul? I want to say it was turn 8 there. It just went on and on and on. At that, you know, I mean, it's on a shorter scale there, smaller scale, but that reminds me of that in a little bit.
Yeah, it's just high G-load in a lot of these sections, and as the tires wear and the heat rises, as the sun comes up here over Southern California, you really start to feel it in the cockpit.
All right, let's do a full lap. Lap starts now. This is Linus Lundqvist, Chip Ganassi Racing. Turn 1. And that's what 3 miles looks like at the Thermal Club. Pretty neat. Thanks to Linus Lundqvist for that. And let's rejoin Kevin Lee. Kev, who have you found?
Santino Ferrucci is one of those who has actually been out on track for a few laps, checking in with his engineer, James Schnabel. That's one of the cool things this year is that James has worked with Penske for the last couple of years, and that is part of that relationship that got you guys off to a great start at St. Petersburg. What's the level of optimism?
Oh, no, it's pretty high, obviously. Working with James, you know, our whole engineering staff is pretty brand new with Mark Armbruster and Adam Pulsar coming aboard and, you know, a couple others. But, no, it's been awesome. You know, I can't thank Larry enough for putting together this team. I think that showed off in St. Pete. Obviously, missing free practice 2 kind of put us on the back foot, but we still managed to do well. And, no, excited to be here in Palm Springs, man. I mean, the sun's in my eyes, got palm trees going around. These cars love this track, so.
Well, you've done dirt track racing before at the Chili Bowl, and you already have gone dirt track racing. Tell me about the first few laps and the little off.
Yeah, obviously, you know, it's tough just coming here and trying to be out right on the second lap there, and just new brakes, chirp the rears. Yeah, a little dirtier out there than I was expecting, but we are in the desert, so. But yeah, no, it's a couple things to tweak here and there on our Sexton Properties 14 Chevrolet, but looking forward to a fun weekend.
That's nothing. So I'm hearing the grip is not real strong right now. What's the game plan?
We're gonna sit here. We wanna. I want to be able to turn in really sharp on the high speed, and right now I have to tiptoe around on eggshells. So if I can figure that out with the boys and then keep the car from going in understeer following that, I think we'll be pretty competitive.
Thank you, Santino.
11th place at the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Pete. That was a really nice start to the year for AJ Foyt Racing, Santino Ferrucci. This is Christian Lundgaard.
Something like really good power down there. Out of turn 5. This is turn 6 that leads onto the longest straightaway for Lundgaard. Last year in the test session, he was P2 overall with a 38.5. That was in February, so maybe a little cooler track temperatures back then. Not great power down right there. That was a big old snap. Look at the bump here as they transition from the red circuit to the blue circuit. Hits the front end pretty hard, and then this is just crazy fast. Look at Lundgaard getting some of that blue paint down low, 120 mile an hour minimum speed. Watch the speed through here. 165, 167 on the way in. I mean, 140 minimum speed. That's
awesome.
Nuts
That's
through a set of
awesome.
S's.
That is awesome, and that comes back to what we were talking about earlier. During the races, whether it be in heat format or the $1 Million Challenge, there's going to be a lot of lead follow, so where do you make that move? Where do you pounce? How do you make that pass? That's going to be so fascinating on tomorrow and Sunday.
So Lundgaard goes to P2 there as Marcus Ericsson goes for a little desert drift. going back to your question, Diff, I think the answer is still pending on that based on what the tire wear does, because I think the pounce is going to come when the back of the IndyCar starts to fall apart for some of these drivers with tire wear. And that'll be the issue, waiting for your opportunity to make some moves. You know, there's a lot of switchbacks here, so if somebody runs wide like Ericsson just did, if you can get a nose and get to that grippy line and keep them off on the dirty side of the racetrack, that's going to be something to look for.
That's what happened to Marcus Ericsson in the Delaware Life Honda for Andretti Global. Up on the curbs. This is in the same spot where Santino Ferrucci went off, except he went a little bit deeper. Just keeping it on the asphalt. Have a listen.
So no crazy lockup there. He was trying to keep the tires rolling, but the moment the left side of his car got onto the curbing there, and it does what it's designed to do, which is be a deterrent from running it. The moment the front end got there, it just picked up the chatter and walked the front end of the race car right off the track.
Have you ever, I mean, just keep coming back to the unique nature of this weekend. Have you ever had an open test that the crescendo of the weekend is a race? I mean, you were part of that 08 non-points race weekend in Service Paradise, but that was a normal race weekend kind of format, you know, even though it was non-championship points. I can't think of something. I mean, at Petit Le Mans at Road Atlanta, they had a test earlier in the week and then they'd race that weekend.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the Roar at Daytona. I mean, the Indy 500 arguably
but that's separated by a week.
Yeah, I mean, the 500, we have practiced, you know, test sessions, basically 6 hours that lead up to it. So I don't, and the reason I challenge you a bit on that, Diff, is I don't think this is much different for a driver, right? It's the same thing. You're trying to develop your car in practice, you're trying to qualify as great as you can, and then you're trying to go race for the best position you can. That doesn't change. The big difference is big chunk of prize money if you do really well at the end of the weekend, and that's pretty awesome. Think of it this way, it's a 20% down payment on a house here if you win. Maybe not, 10%. I can't wait for qualifying through this section. When the track rubber's in by tomorrow, light fuel.
From teammate to teammate, Marcus Ericsson to Kyle Kirkwood. You mentioned earlier that over the weekend we're going to see some of the beautiful homes that have been built here. Who have you been negotiating with? Was that a false promise, or we're going to go and see some?
Oh, we're going to go see some. You know, the owner of this great facility, Tim Rogers, has an amazing place here. Kyle Washington, who we know from the IMSA WeatherTech Championship, who races in GTD occasionally. He's around here. You got Don Cusick. Got a friend Brad from the Palisades. He's just building a place here. So I mean, there's no shortage. And what's really cool is every place is different.
Right.
Everybody has put their own personal touch. There's classic Mission Spanish style, you know, California architecture. There's modern stuff like you might see in Malibu or Miami. Just about anything's possible here at Thermal. There's very few limits in terms of what you can do. As you see Mr. Washington's house. How about that? Just crane your GTD car up for the weekend. He'll be having a big party, I'm sure, tonight there.
Cool. Very cool. We're talking to you high above the Pro Shop, where you come in, which mirrors any high-end golf course, that's for sure. It is fantastic. That's where we are there. We're right on the top floor of that. That's where we're talking to you now. But, I mean, there's the vault where the members can keep their prized possessions, the possessions, pardon me. As Townsend mentioned more earlier, the variety of restaurants that are here. There is the engineering facility. There's like a regular gas station type thing right in the middle here. I mean,
well, in a world-class karting track, which is actually where the INDYCAR paddock, all of the INDYCAR team transporters and related equipment, TV compound, it's a world-class karting facility as well, designed by the great shifter kart driver from Southern California, Howie Idelson. This place really, I mean, if you're into going fast, this is an absolute Disneyland. And I'm glad you brought up the food because it is absolutely top notch. There's a full-time sushi chef on location as well. You suffer for nothing here. This guy was quick in the test last year. Callum Ilott, P4 overall.
Whoa. Again, he is subbing for the injured David Malukas, who was on the recovery train after injuring his wrist, so he missed St. Pete. Callum drove in his place, part of the McLaren team. By the way, you may have seen the news overnight that Zach Brown has been re-signed. He's done a contract extension as the McLaren Racing CEO, so well done to American Zach Brown, continuing his amazing job heading up the global organization. Check this out. Oh my. Whoa.
66 of Tom Blomqvist. Big old slide. Nice save.
Sprint car style, just the wrong way.
How much Firestone did he leave on the track with that one?
And this happened while we were looking at that replay.
Wow. Look at how violent the shutter is from running that exit curb, and then you can see how dirty that exit curb is as well. Really doesn't seem to chew up the bottom of the car much, but the tires, the sidewall deflection is very dramatic.
So that lap got Tom Blomqvist's attention for sure. There's Mike Shank, co-team owner. Jim Meyer is here as well. They were at the draw last night, both to pair up the NTT IndyCar Series drivers with respective club members here at the Thermal Club. And then the qualifying groups were drawn last night as well. Same as always, what we do on road and street courses. Paired off into Group 1, Group 2, as they'll go after it for qualifying. There's an extra set of Firestone Firehawk tyres for qualifying, and they get that 40 seconds of push to pass. So that will come as a welcome bonus, right? Adding to the difference of this weekend in comparison to a normal NTT IndyCar Series race weekend.
How'd you like to be Blomqvist right now? You're at a new track, you're on your new full-time IndyCar team, you're out there grinding away, pushing it as hard as you can, and they radio you and say, hey, good work, but you still got 4 seconds to find.
I mentioned the qualifying groups. Here's your first look at who's going to go head-to-head. So in Group 1, Will Power, Santino Ferrucci. Where's the championship leader? Joseph Newgarden is also in Group 1.
Group 1's looking real strong. McLaughlin, Scott Dixon, Colton Herta, Newgarden. I mean, Grosjean, he qualified, what, 5th at St. Pete? He could surprise in that session. So not to say that Group 2 doesn't have some meat as well. You've got Alex Palou over there. I'd expect Ericsson and Armstrong to be really strong as well. Pato O'Ward, of course, probably the most experienced driver like we talked about here.
Take a look in Group 1, car 18, Nolan Siegel, the teenager from California. He makes his first formal appearance in the NTT IndyCar Series. He is the championship leader in the Indy Next Series, formerly Indy Lights. Has been enjoying some sports car racing as well. He's a super talented young man, and looking forward to seeing him in both qualifying and race mode this weekend as we climb aboard the Mission Foods on board with Alexander Rossi. Let's have a look, let's have a listen, and you can follow and learn the track here at the Thermal Club. So, wherever you're watching our coverage here live on Peacock, we've got a question for you. Oh, as Alexander Rossi runs a little wide there. It's quite simple. Who's your early prediction to win this weekend's Thermal Club $1 Million Challenge? And simply use hashtag INDYCAR and we'll follow your responses, your predictions, and we can interact with you during this morning's coverage. And this afternoon, there's another 3-hour open test session going on this afternoon. So what's piqued your interest? Who do you think? You think Joseph Newgarden's going to keep this magical run going of winning the Rolex 24, then winning the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Pete? Does Joseph keep it going? Does Colton Herter? Does he rack up a victory, fresh from victory at Sebring last weekend here in the NTT IndyCar Series, being the non-points race, the $1 Million Challenge? All to be answered over the course of the weekend, as Kevin Lee has found one of the Thermal Club members. Who you got, Kev?
So we're going to talk to one of the members in a moment who is really going to be able to give us some insight, but I'm just still exploring. So we were on the other pit lane that they're using this weekend. That's the South Palm track. As I mentioned, this is broken up into different sections. There's really 3 tracks within one big track, and we're using kind of all of it today. This is the North Palm pit lane, which is pretty cool because a lot of it's in the shade. You can have 10, 12 cars here all in the shade, which is pretty useful here in the desert if you get into the afternoon. And then we look up here, and this is in this configuration. That's turn 14. A little straightaway is coming down here into turn 15, so a cool area. And Don Cusick, who we've talked about, has been instrumental in this partnership coming together for IndyCar, first getting to test last year and now doing a championship type of event this weekend for cash. How much fun has this been for you as someone that's involved in the Indy 500 to see him come to your backyard?
It's amazing. It's like the best thing ever. Typically, you know, the night before Indy, I'm up at 3 o'clock in the morning, but here I was doing the same thing. It's just great to have everybody out here and, you know, like you said, in our backyard. So, yeah, it's fun. Members are loving it.
That's what I was going to ask. How are the members taking to this? Because this is a pretty exclusive area, and we're allowing riffraff like me in here this weekend.
You know, I just talked to a bunch of the members over on pit lane, and they're nothing but smiles. They're having a great time. Everybody's so welcoming. As you know, all the IndyCar team and drivers and everybody are super friendly and welcoming. So, yeah, they're having a blast.
So right over there, you can see some of the houses as well, and you look down to a really nice technical section. And you've done a lot of laps here. What's that little section like over here, Don?
The blue carousel, a lot of G-force, especially for these guys, something they're probably not used to. There's not much bank there. And for us in a GTD car, about a 90-mile-an-hour turn, for them it's probably more like 120. So they're getting a lot of G-force when they come around there.
So the members, obviously, this is a playground for them, but how often do you see pro drivers coming in here and just getting a chance to kind of compare yourself to what they're doing?
Well, interesting question. So Potta was out here a couple of weeks ago, and he jumped in my Porsche, and I thought I was pretty proficient in it, and he was 5 seconds faster per lap. So, yeah, that'll humble you in a hurry.
Thanks for welcoming everyone here, and we're looking forward to seeing more of the facility. That's Don Cusick, and he's going to be involved with Dreyer and Reinbold in the Indy 500 with Connor Daly and Ryan Hunter-Reay as his drivers this May.
Been terrific to have Don and Cusick Motorsports part of the NTT IndyCar Series in recent years. We climb aboard the Code 3 Associates, Graham Rahal, number 15. And let's show you something that went down just moments ago. Back at that, as Townsend called it, the little kicker. That was a bit more than a little kick.
Yeah, but I like the way it landed there. It seems like that's a nice little shortcut. One of the great things about IndyCar, of course, is no track limits. You can use the whole canvas that's available. Graham got wide here. This is exactly what happened to Marcus Ericsson earlier. I think turn 3, this is going to be the trouble spot. You asked earlier, where are you going to make your move? It's probably going to be in turn 3 in terms of your best chance following. On board here with Alexander Rossi, exiting turn 3. Probably a little too much curb at the exit, and then he climbs all over the chicane curbs. I think it looked like it worked all right there over the first one. Power through the triple hander. Here comes the kicker. Ooh. See how much of the first apex he takes compared to Rossi. About the same. And Dick, this is with only 3 laps on the tires, and you can tell already that rear degradation is aggressive, and can't imagine what 20 laps is going to be like on Sunday. It's going to be fun to watch. Pretty clever short shift right there. Right before that big bump in the transition, Power grabbed 4th gear, low in the rev range to just try to take the bite out of the power band as he negotiates that bump. Minimum speed through here, still just wicked fast. 142 down to 137. And then you really have to gather things up to get all the way down to 59 miles an hour over in turn 14. Oh, boom. Where does that put him? P13.
Do you remember a couple of years ago when Will won his 2nd championship, we made a big deal about early in the year, the magic number for him was 4, right? He had nothing worse than 4th, I think, through until the Indianapolis 500. Finished the St. Pete, the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Pete in 4th. Nice solid start for him. His teammate Scott McLaughlin on the podium. Joseph winning. So the 3 Team Penske Chevys were in the top 4 positions. That's ominous.
And we talk about, you know, best worst finish a lot. Nobody better last year than Alex Palou. He'd be my pick for this weekend. I know he's P1 right now, but if you think about the challenge in front of the drivers over the next 2 days with qualifying and the $1 Million Challenge, it's precision that I think is going to win the day. It's the ability to just stay on the tightrope, on the high wire, and be ultra precise like a surgeon. So Palou's going to be my pick.
Let's take a look at the MyJack Honda for Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing and Pietro Fittipaldi. What happened? Whoa.
That's in that transition we talked about. Coming off the red circuit into the blue circuit, turn 8. Really upsets the car, and you're at maximum lateral load, trying to get into the throttle. Pietro sits P22 right now after 4 laps.
Back of that car just jumped up like it was on a hand jack and sent him sideways. Good catch, and let's not forget, you know, you used the word transition. Let's remember the transition this guy's in, coming from Formula One, where he's the Haas Formula One test and development driver. Still has that title, by the way, but you know, it's not like he hasn't done any IndyCar racing before. He has, but never a full season, knowing that going into the beginning of a new year, and so much learning of new tracks for Pietro.
True, but such a great platform to learn from with Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing because of Graham Rahal's experience and really the kind of team leader these days performance-wise with Christian Lundgaard, sits P2 right now. So you think about the data that he'll have to leverage all of the team's experience at so many of the circuits that are not new on the IndyCar schedule. So I think just a great learning environment. Seems like a pretty low-pressure learning environment for Pietro Fittipaldi. Everybody knows that it's going to take some time to make that transition, but he's got a great baseline to work from.
Well, he was one of several St. Pete surprises. Let's have a look. How about AJ Foyt Racing Santino Ferrucci knocking on the door of the top 10?
How about this car to 77, Romain Grosjean, solid.
He has changed teams. He's gone from Andretti Global to Honko's Hollinger Racing. Biggest mover in this race is Pietro Fittipaldi for Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing.
Felix Rosenquist, he rides in that second spot, but there is no sweat coming out of the 60 pit. He feels more calm and more in harmony with the series and his team than he ever has before this year in his first start with Meyer Shank Racing.
Good weekend for several of those guys. Obviously for Roman Grosjean, it ended prematurely, but still overall there were lots to be positive about. For this guy here, Pietro Fittipaldi, he gained...
Small blip from the TV angle.
I mean, just finishing is an accomplishment when you're a rookie at St. Pete, or a case of Pietro Fittipaldi. I guess technically not a rookie. I think about him in that regard. Talking the press this week about what the future might look like for the driver of the 45, Christian Lundgaard. And I don't think he was too shy about saying, hey, Rahaal's my first priority. I'd like to return to the team, but there's a lot of demand for my services in the marketplace. So I wonder if Kevin's listening right now. Kevin, what do you expect? It was a pretty vibrant, silly season last year. A lot of drivers getting big money in either new contracts or moving over to new teams. What do you think the future looks like for Christian Lundgaard?
Yeah, isn't that interesting? We've had one race, and even before that first race, people are already talking about 2025, and we didn't even have 2024 done because of the injury to David Malukas, and Dale Coyne still hasn't confirmed what they're doing in their seats all season long, especially for the 51 car. But there are some big-name free agents that are going to be in the market for 2025, and maybe it does start with Christian Lundgaard, who's going to have a lot of people interested in him, and publicly he's saying all the right things, and I believe it's accurate that they gave me my first chance at Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan, so they're going to get the first option. But he's also been pretty open that we're going to need to figure out the oval package. The biggest race is the Indianapolis 500, and that did not go well last year. The challenge is sometimes these deals are being done in May, and maybe if there's another seat that he is interested in, it might not be there in June to see how it's going. So this open test coming up on, what day is that, April 10th and 11th for the Indianapolis 500, that'll get you a sense, because remember last year Graham Rahal said after that test we knew we were in trouble, and that turned out to be the case with all four of their cars in the last row shootout and one of them not making it. You know, his other free agents next year, I believe Alexander Rossi's contract is up after this season. Joseph Newgarden's contract might be up after this season. There are always clauses involved, and then quite a few others. So, yeah, it got started early for next year.
Well, the other thing to remember about Christian Lundgaard is that for everything that he's done in his short IndyCar career, he's still only 22. That's a big asset.
And he showed up here in spectacular fashion with that debut performance at the Indy Grand Prix. He's a race winner now. He's getting that critical oval experience, and I think that's really the key point for any young driver. No different than this guy, Scott McLaughlin, is they show up, they're competitive, usually pretty early on street and road courses because that's what they know, and then they get that oval apprenticeship under the belt. And for the number 3, he's got all that experience now on the full spectrum of IndyCar tracks, and he's ready to win anywhere, everywhere, and maybe even the championship. See how the Thirsty 3 rides over that bump. Oh my, you barely noticed it right there. A bump. Wow.
I feel that Scott McLaughlin has stepped it up again in terms of intensity for this 2024 season. Shred quite a bit of weight from the off season, some 16 pounds. I was talking to him last night. He just has that look in his eye, you know, like he's all business. The settle-in period is well and truly over. He got his best championship position last year with 3rd. Got a podium at St. Pete. I think in his mind it's on.
Well, and he waited a long time with his team, about an hour, to really get out and start to send it in anger. So this is lap 4 on these tires, and this is his push lap. This will be a fun one to watch. 16 pounds, you said, in the offseason?
Yeah.
Think about what he lost initially when he came to IndyCar. That's got to be, what, 30, 35 pounds in total. This thing looks pretty hooked up.
We asked you to send your thoughts, predictions, feelings on who you think's going to win. Want to thank Vicky Kaiser, and she says Scotty Mack appropriately. We ride with her. Thanks, Vicky. Who else? Last lap Lando. I'm going bold. Callum Ilott in the Arrow McLaren Chevy is going to do it. Okay, so we've got one for Scotty Mack, one for Callum Ilott. Is there one for Colton Herter? There certainly is, Joey. Thank you very much. So this one's got Herter written all over it. We'll see, Joey. We'll see. So 3 different ones there so far. Did we get some more? Who else is sharing their thoughts?
Slagger. Ian here. Going to go with Rossi. Due for some success. I think he'll deliver. Car looking good on the onboard. How about that, Ian? It looked like a little bit of a handful for Rossi, finding some grip when you contrast it to McLaughlin, but we'll have till Sunday to debate that out. And then Caleb here. Pretty good bet. Scotty D, his teammate Pelot's quick. Dixon P9 on the charts right now. He wouldn't mind an extra $500,000 come Sunday. Watch the 9 through this section. 11, 12, and 13. The back of the race car looks very composed. The old starting line just about to come up here for Scott Dixon.
Let's have a look. Whoa.
Nice.
Scott's one of half a dozen IndyCar drivers who were part of the 12 Hours of Sebring last week in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship.
So just to give you a sense of tire wear, Kevin, that last lap for Scott Dixon was a 42.1 compared to his quickest lap, lap 4 of a 40.1. Dixon's got 14 laps on his tires. This is a pretty good read of what Deg looks like. And Kevin, what's it look like from where you're watching?
Oh, it looks really, really good, Townsend. You're going to enjoy your trek around the facility tomorrow. Can you see me? As you might expect, I found a suite because it's not full yet. It's going to be full on Sunday, and they won't let me in, but I was able to talk my way in here. So I'm in one of the back stretches. This is a really cool location. Right in front of me is exit of turn 6. This reminds me a little bit of Barber Motorsports Park, where they weave back and forth, and across from where the booth is at Barber, you can see the cars pass you several times. So right now, I can see a car going by the pit lane, one of the Hucos cars. They're going to come back in turn 3, come back through turn 6, all the way down towards turn 7. But let's take a little walk through this suite and see if you are one of the privileged to be able to come up here and take a tour. So this is not available to all, but it actually is pretty available. This was available to the regular public, and watch where we're going there. We got lots of tables. We're knocking things down. So I think we're already going to be kicked out halfway through the first practice. But we've seen a lot of suite setups. This one looks as nice as we've seen for the fan. Go ahead of me. We don't need to see my back. Go ahead and see what other people are seeing. So you got monitors basically every 25 feet or so. Huge big screen right through there. The shade is going to come in quite handy today when it gets to be 86 degrees. And this is going to be a wonderful place to be. The high-level guests have parking here right in the area and beautiful access. It's a short golf cart ride or a drive over to the pit lane. So if you have the chance, this is a place to be. There might even be still some GA tickets to come and join us this weekend if you are so inclined. I'm going to be here as long as I can, and they tell me to leave, and we might have lunch here.
Good work, Kevy. First hour of this opening 2-hour session is already complete. Rinus VK, I thought there was a lot to be positive from his opening weekend of the year. He starts the 2024 NTT IndyCar Series with a top 10 result from St. Pete. It was just good, solid stuff.
Good, solid stuff, and got to point out, no sooner than I question the pick for Rossi does he go P4 with a 39.9. So, well done, whoever that was. Forgot your name, but good call. Rossi showing some early pace. And yeah, for Rinus VK, I think, to see him kind of just settle into another season with Ed Carpenter Racing. They've made a big investment in his career. They believe in him. He's a fast set of hands. He's an aggressive driver, but I think we're in the maturity phase now with Rinus VeeKay, where you really see experience, maybe a greater sense of calm behind the wheel. Man, that thing slides around a lot.
He doesn't mind hustling the car, though. I think that's part of his style, part of his flair. I don't think it's at the level of a Pato O'Ward, but that is part of the DNA.
Well,
VeeKay,
it's core DNA. In fact, that's his norm, is absolute hustle, ragged edge. A lot like this guy, like Pato O'Ward. And I think for both O'Ward and Rinus VeeKay, very similar driver mentality there. And I think their teams have had to pull them back a little bit and say, we don't just need the one fast lap. We don't have to drive it on the absolute ragged edge all the time. What we need is your help to improve the car. What are you feeling? What do you need to do a fast lap for 10 in a row, for a full 20-lap stint? How do we stay in front of the tire wear? So I think it's gone more from raw talent to the leadership qualities for both O'Ward and VeeKay, and they are delivering.
this is a lock-up for O'Ward in the Arrow McLaren Chevy. That's at turn 4. He was able to get out of that fairly swiftly. No worries. 55 minutes left in this session.
Looking at Scott Dixon, he's done 15 laps. He's in the pits right now, but that last lap was a 42.7. So we're inching up on what appears to be at least 3 seconds of fall off on that 20-lap stint.
Here's a nice view coming onto pit road. Maybe not for you because you've been here, but for me, I'm just taking everything in. I'm like the folks at home or wherever you're watching this on our live coverage on Peacock. I'm like, what's that? What's that? What's that? I'm looking everywhere. It's just so much to take in. It's fantastic.
It'd be really cool if a little tray on the end of a pole went into the cockpit with a piece of Toro from the sushi bar. This is an exciting opportunity for Callum Ilott this weekend. Of course, it's exciting that he gets a chance to drive for Arrow McLaren, but he's got that first weekend under his belt now, right?
Yep.
Gelling with the team, understanding who the people are, what the vibe is like, what kind of data does he have from his teammates, Rossi and O'Ward, and now he comes to a track that he knows just as well as anybody. He was really quick last year in the open test. P4 overall. So this should feel just familiar in so many more ways than St. Pete did for Callum Ilott, one race in with the team.
Finished in the top half of the field of the 27 cars from Firestone Grand Prix of St. Pete. He finished 13th. No change either as far as power supply, so he went from a Chevy powered team to another Chevy powered team, but of course a much larger organisation as far as the personnel and resources that they have at their disposal at Arrow McLaren.
I'll tell you what, that last corner, turn 17, after the kicker on old tires, it's going to be a handful to keep that thing on the racetrack. A very fast section, very bumpy, and with a very unforgiving pit wall to drivers right through there. Short shifting is going to be key with tire wear. If you heard Callum grab second, low in the RPM range between the chicane, I think you're going to want to tractor pull it, which is what we call it when you short shift and get low in the rev range and just help the drivability deeper into the stint.
Let's show you, Townsend said, keep an eye out for that last turn. After the kicker, ran a little wide and able to get it back on. Again, this is testing. This is in the lead up to tomorrow's qualifying session for the 2 heat races and then Sunday's $1 Million Challenge. Is championship leader. Indy 500 reigning Indy 500 champ and the series points leader, Joseph Newgarden, about to climb aboard the Hitachi Chevy.
And it looks like maybe he's done an install and then waited. I see a little bit of scuff on those tires. So
he did go out for the install. He was out when everyone else left, and I think that's it. It's just...
So this is interesting. I like this approach, which is, hey, let's sit, watch, learn, not be in a big rush to get out there. Let the track rubber in. Because what the drivers would have felt an hour ago is probably quite a bit different than even right now with the way things have rubbered in as we flash back to St. Pete. Starting the season off right with the pole. And some bold moves down in turn 1 for Joseph Newgarden. Largely unchallenged. About an 8-second lead, I think, at the finish. It was dominant.
Definitely a race of two halves. I don't know how you felt. I enjoyed the first half more than the second. He ran away with it. You know, it was one of those fuel races, and you know, in that last 30-40 laps, there was nobody that was really hassling him. So I certainly enjoyed the first half more than the latter half. But there was a lot going on back in the pack. There was just no immediate pressure on him.
Yeah, and I think just behind him, you had Pato O'Ward kind of holding up Newgarden's teammates and Will Power and McLaughlin, who looked equally as quick. So that would have been, I think, fun if the Penske teammates would have been able to get around and maybe have a chance to challenge Newgarden. But at that point, he had such a solid lead and such a huge focus for him, like he talked about on street circuits coming into the season. So I can only imagine how gratifying that is. All the work in the offseason to improve in that area and then to deliver. Life is good, and maybe that's why we see them so chilled to start this session.
Let's show you some action at turn 2. Who's first up here do we see? It's Christian Rasmussen in the INDYCAR Chevy for Ed Carpenter Racing. This is Graham Rahal. Have a listen.
So that's that turn 3 brake zone. Same thing here for Rinus VeeKay. No big deal, you run wide, but big deal in the race or the heat races. Lose several spots in addition to getting all kinds of dirt and debris on your tires.
All right, we can't ride on board enough at a new track. This is the Bon Jovi Radio Sirius XM Auto Nation Honda. From Meyershank Racing, Felix Rosenquist. Let's go for a ride.
Rosenquist fighting the wheel quite a bit there. 8 laps on these tires. They'll come to the triple handy. Not before he comes to pit lane. And this is the section that's given, I don't know, at least 5 or 6 drivers all kinds of trouble so far today. Turn 3 and 4, decreasing radius. It tightens up for that second apex, turn 4.
They're going off there to your left.
Yeah, they get in hot. They go into that overshoot, and that asphalt is, you know, dirty, not a lot of grip. And I think that's by intent, along with the chatter curbs, that if you get your left front onto that curb right there in between 3 and 4, it just walks you right off the track.
There have been numerous drivers finding the limits there in that section. as we welcome back to the track championship leader Joseph Newgarden. This is what a lap out sounds like. Just building to speed.
Outlap here for Newgarden. You can tell that, IndyCar motors, they don't really like partial throttle off song. He's trying to be smooth through there, but the throttle mapping is suboptimal unless you're at full peak demand.
Hence the bop, bop, bop.
Yeah. Car's just kind of jumping. Call that whiskey throttle in motocross. Sounds a lot like Ayrton Senna. That was his style. Senna stabs. And Newgarden's just being very disciplined here with how he brings the tires in. Temperature and pressure. And I had my corner numbers wrong. 2 and 3 are these two, the double right-hander here, Diff.
Hey, you get a mulligan. We all get a mulligan here learning this race because there's 17 turns.
I should know better. I was consulted on the original design.
Were you really?
Yeah. You know what we did was...
Okay, you don't get a mulligan then.
They asked me what I thought of the circuit, and I looked at a track map, much like you see on the screen right here. And I said, well, it's really hard to tell just looking at a bird's eye view of the layout. And I said, what we ought to do is let's take the civil engineering, the 3D point cloud, and maybe we'll put it in a racing simulator and I'll drive it. So that's what we did. So before the track was ever paved, ever built, did a bunch of laps in a simulator and gave a little bit of feedback, and lo and behold, a couple years later, they made it happen.
Got some replays to show you as Joseph Newgarden continues to build to speed. This first up, the Gainbridge Honda of Colton Herter. Hard on the brakes. Look at that dust and the lock up.
Kiffin Simpson here. One of the rookies. Wow. Didn't expect the rears to lock up like that. A massive lock up on the left rear.
As we ride with Scott McLaughlin, let's give Kiffin Simpson a pat on the back as well for his first NTT IndyCar Series race, 23rd to 14th. As a rookie, you will take that all day long.
For sure.
Well done. And you could say there was nothing flashy, but you know what? There was nothing to criticize. He brought it home, which is one massive piece of the puzzle. Highest finishing rookie, car in one piece. You got to remember, two of his more illustrious teammates, they crashed, right? He brought his Journey Honda home.
I think Kiffin Simpson's journey in IndyCar reminds me a lot of what we saw from Devlin DeFrancesco over the last couple seasons. Kiffin Simpson didn't light the world on fire in the Indy Next Series. I think he finished 10th in the championship, so he moves up pretty aggressively, for a young driver to the IndyCar level. But if you do that, your goal is got to run all the laps, got to get the experience. Don't try to get too far up or over the tip of your skis, and just settle in, learn from your teammates. And I think to your point, he did a great job of ticking those boxes at St. Pete. McLaughlin here, 15th right now. many laps are on his tires? 8.
What happened to Scotty Mack just a moment ago? This is turn 17, last corner.
It's going to be a big off if someone has an issue there. Let's watch. That thing hooks right. There's nowhere to hide. That Armco barrier is right there, ready to greet.
And or if it keeps tracking left, this is what they're going to experience. That's going to be dirt track style with an Armco barrier waiting for you.
That's a pretty cool shot. Sort of get lulled into admiring the architecture, and then all of a sudden, whoosh. The Expel Chevy comes into view. Off song for Armstrong. Sounds like he'll be coming in. Or maybe this is an out lap on fresh tires.
From one of INDYCAR's young stars to another. However, this is rookie Christian Rasmussen. And any time, any amount of laps in an INDYCAR, he will take. It's part of his building program. But at such a young age, he has already achieved so much. So this is just the natural step in the progression of the career of this young Dane.
Driving the INDYCAR Chevy, and he's put a lot of care into preparing his neck for this season. Doesn't factor as much into the streets of St. Pete. Corner speed's not nearly as high, but this is the kind of place where all that work in the offseason in building your neck muscles for the sustained G-forces of permanent road courses and ovals, that'll certainly come into play, both in the heavy brake zones like right here for turn 1, and then some of the areas like turn 9, 10, 11. Those are really, really high lateral G sections of the track.
And they like what they see already at Ed Carpenter Racing with this 23-year-old.
Right now, that last lap 13 for Rasmussen on the day was a 45.2. Quick time of 41.2 for Rasmussen. You see the hands are really busy trying to keep the back of the car under control. Things dancing all over the place through turn 8, now into that long turn 9. Come through the S's. And then hit the all-start finish. That was a pretty clean lap. Didn't see any mistakes there, but it looks like a handful with the tire wear. Rasmussen comes across at a 43.3. So again, roughly 2 seconds we see. That's very similar to the fall off from Scott Dixon from his quickest time to where he sits after 13, 14 laps.
You know how you mentioned no mistakes there, pretty clean, etc. Just thinking ahead to the 2 heat races and the $1 Million Challenge, it might be a case of not necessarily spectacular passes or lunges that will occur, as opposed to unforced errors and you making a mistake to lose a position, you know?
Yeah, we talked about that earlier, and I think that's why these conditions are favorable to precision. aggression might get you the pole, but I think precision is what's going to get you the cash this weekend. And Madonna said it best, like a surgeon.
Stop. All right. Thanks so much for playing along and sharing your predictions or your thoughts, of course, with your favourite drivers. This is James Scott. James says that he's keeping an eye on Graham Rahal. So for sure, the Rahal Letterman Lanigan squad wouldn't disagree. This is Blanos. Why not? Let's go for Marcus Armstrong, recovering from his St. Pete crash here. He was flabbergasted. After St. Pete, he couldn't believe what had transpired. And then here's one for the championship leader from Mark Kielblock, Joseph Newgarden, and then Ian Soper says, well, I'll take Palou. He's going to bring home the cash, and there's a lot of it. The total prize pool, more than $1.7 million. Been a long time since INDYCAR had a non-championship points race and a lot of money on the line. We showed you and told you about it earlier, 2008, Service Paradise Australia. Prior to that, it was in the early 1990s at Nazareth, where Emerson Fittipaldi won, and then Laguna Seca, Michael Andretti won. Rick Mears won at Nazareth. Prior to that, Al Unser Jr. won at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. Before that, Tamiami Park in South Florida, where Bobby Rahal and Michael Andretti won, and then you go into some other ones way back in the 60s. So it hasn't happened a lot, but there is a history of non-championship points races in the NTT INDYCAR Series, and some extra cash dangling at the end, along with the checkered flag. So who's going to get the cash? You'll have to wait and see on network television, NBC on Sunday, to see who's going to win the Thermal Club $1 Million Challenge.
And for a part-time driver getting his break, Callum Ilott wouldn't mind grabbing that cash. Looks pretty sporty going around here. Ilott's last lap of 41.8 after 11 laps, so 1.8 seconds off his quick time. This starts to get him into that tire window where it's going to be tough. And we got to remember that on Sunday, with the $1 Million Challenge live on NBC starting at 12:30 Eastern, they'll run 10 laps. They'll get to about where Callum Ilott is right now with tire deck, and then they'll fill it up with fuel, but no new tires. That is a handful, and that is something none of these drivers has really ever experienced.
You wanted to have the Joker lap, kind of back to the GRC rally days. There's no Joker lap, but that is kind of an X factor, where you come back, refuel, and you've got to go out on the tyres that you've just done the first 10 laps on and get them going again after a break. Kevin Lee's been making his way around and talking to club members and drivers alike, and that theme continues. Kevo.
I got kicked out of the suite, but this is still a pretty good place to be, and I found shade. Dale Coyne Racing has the advantageous location on pit lane. Colin Brown just hopped out of the car. We're going to talk with him in a minute. He's still looking at squiggly lines and going through data with HRC execs. But we've got someone who was in the race car a couple of weeks ago and will be most of the season with Dale Coyne Racing and Jack Harvey. So I know when I talk to Colin, he's going to say, I'm really glad Jack is here. How can you help him?
Oh, well, that's awfully nice of him to say. To be honest, after St. Pete, I think it became clear that there's a decent amount of work to do. So coming here right now was honestly just to try and lend a hand in whichever way I can, whether it's helping Colin, helping Nolan, just kind of helping the team, try and get a direction that is going to pay dividend the rest of the season. But I mean, it's Colin's first time driving here in the INDYCAR, Nolan's first time. So I think today, really, for everybody, is just going to be trying to figure out what path they want to go down the rest of the weekend, really.
I think everyone understands that you all are starting from ground zero with engineers being hired 3 weeks ago. You guys weren't confirmed until a few weeks ago. So what is the process? What's reasonable to expect for the team as you get this season started?
It's just one step at a time, mate, truthfully. I feel like you can overcomplicate these things. You just got to gradually progress. People like Colin, obviously, not a ton of experience in INDYCAR, but a lot of racing experience. So I'm really happy with the driver lineup that we have, because it's just going to be one step in front of the other, and it's going to be a slight process. We have to have some patience, but I mean, we're going to build to it. But I mean, he's going to do a great job this weekend, I have no doubt. So just chip away. That's it.
We'll see a lot more of you. I think 13 races are confirmed, so we'll see you at Barber, and who knows, maybe more, right?
Well, I'm available to do more, but yeah.
Thanks, Jack. And Colin Brown is here, fresh off his first IndyCar race a couple of weeks ago, Sebring last weekend. A little more level playing field. Not everybody has done 1,000 laps here. How is it going so far?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's great to have Jack here. He's obviously a big help for this whole group. For me, obviously my second race weekend, so it's nice just kind of working on what we had at St. Pete, building on that, trying to get the whole thing a little bit more natural feeling. It was nice to go out in the first practice and sort of, I've been here to this thermal track before, so kind of know what's going on a little bit and just kind of start to work on car setup and try to make this Dale Coyne car a bit quicker.
So you've done almost what the race length is going to be on Sunday, 19 laps. As a couple of minutes ago, only one person had done more laps. One, physicality. Two, what did the car feel like, especially with tire wear later on?
Yeah, we went out early and did a lot of laps, so I think we saw a pretty big deg on the tire. I think as it rubbers up, we're going to see a bit less of that, but I just needed to get laps in. We need to start our test program and get going. So, physicality-wise, certainly this section here, kind of on this end of the racetrack, the high-speed stuff, is a long duration corner, fast. These things are making a lot of G's, so you're definitely working. I wish I had like 6 more months in the gym before coming here, but it's good. It's not bad. You can lock your elbow up on the side of the tub and just get after it. It's fun.
Are you glad you took on this challenge?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, it's something I've always dreamed to do and wanted to do, and super cool to get a chance to come out here and do it. I mean, huge thanks to Dale and all the guys at Honda for giving me a shot here. It's been a huge learning curve, but man, it's been one that's been fun, and I feel like every time I've gotten in the car, we've gotten better and improved, so it's good.
Thanks, Colin. This is going to be fun to watch. This guy is an amazing talent. You give him time, you get the car sorted. I just really want to see what he can do, and a lot of people think he is very deserving of this chance.
Motorsport has been his whole life. A karting kid from Texas, first raced at the Rolex 24 as a 16-year-old. We were making a big deal, and justifiably so, about Connor Zilic last weekend at Sebring and at the Rolex 24 at 17. Colin raced there at 16 years of age, went all the way to NASCAR, both trucks and Xfinity, and he's a Rolex 24 at Daytona winner. He's a sports car champion, and patience has paid off. He's finally in an IndyCar.
And you can just tell how much more comfortable Colin is in his second event. St. Pete was drinking through a fire hose for him. This is a track he knows. He's done a ton of coaching here with some gentleman drivers, and I think it pays off. I mean, yeah, he's 23rd on the time chart, but he's right in the meat of it with everybody's quick lap, and I think it's just the familiarity of the facility, the team now, a lot like Callum Ilott in his second IndyCar event with Darrell McLaren.
Tom Blomqvist went for a wild ride earlier. We've got another replay to show you. What happened to the driver of the Arctic Wolf, Meyer Shank Honda? That's turn 17 again. Little wheelie.
Yeah, that wheelie is induced by a big old floor pop there. That one you definitely feel. You can see how it's a two-step exit curve. So it drops off to a lower level, and if you straddle that, you're going to case it. Blomqvist comes to pit lane. How's he looking right now? 22nd on the charts there. 43.5 was the last lap. Was that 2 seconds diff? And then you add fuel, probably a 3-second delta by the end of the $1 Million Challenge on Sunday.
Agustin Canapino going to a new track and learning was the theme for him last year. So, and he showed us many times, or I should say time and again, at what a quick study he is.
Well, and he was quick to nod with approval last night with one of the more exciting updates for this driver in the offseason, which is that he has agreed to let me call him Augie.
No.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
You got a firm no last year.
So we're going Augie C. Just rolls off the tongue a little bit more, don't you think? He's having a good time. And talk about comfort. For Canapino, he's just comfortable being in the U.S. for a year now and understanding not just the race team or IndyCar, just the whole culture that we have here, what to expect, all of these diverse locations. Huge opportunity for him. He got a lot of testing last year, felt pretty comfortable and was very impressive 21st overall out of the 27 cars, but within about a second of the top time. So should be fun to watch his progress here today and tomorrow.
Well, too, I mean, tell our listeners and viewers, what is it like to work with a different teammate? So he's got to know his teammate last year in Callum Ilott. Callum leaves the team. Along comes former F1 star Romain Grosjean. So what's that settling period with a new teammate? What's that like?
Well, I'm just going to guess here for Canapino. Last year, Callum Ilott, young driver, aggressive, very confident. I'm sure it gave tremendous data for Canapino to compare himself to. But I feel like with Romain Grosjean, Grosjean's had some terrific accomplishments in his career. He's seen a lot. He's done a lot. He's raced all over the world in all different categories. Canapino has had lots of success in his career down in Argentina. So I feel like maybe that chemistry is going to be a little bit easier because they're talking the same language. They're in a very similar and consistent sort of life path in terms of their age and experience. So it's going to be fun to see how that plays out. Kev?
Well, there's a car back here in the paddock area. It's the number 41pray.com. AJ Foyt Racing Chevrolet for Stingray Rob. And here is Stingray Rob. It's test session, so this is not that much out of the ordinary. What's the reason for coming back and putting it on the pad again?
Yeah, it's early days. We got a lot of time today. We got more time than we got tires right now, so we just want to make sure everything's right. We saw something weird in the data that might have been an issue, but we're going to go back out there here in just a second and see if we can fix the problem, but looks like nothing too big.
You've not had a lot of laps, but you still had some. What do you think so far?
Yeah, the track's very fun. It's kind of interesting. It's split up kind of into two styles of racing. You have the low speed first half and you have the high speed second half. So I think it'll be interesting on what we do setup wise, kind of sacrifice or converge on both, I guess. So I think it'll just be who can do both the best.
Is today just about big picture things for the entire season? And then at what point do you work on this race on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, this is a non-points weekend for us, so it would be nice to win some money. And I know that that's a big draw for the weekend, but I think for us, we're just going to focus on using this for the rest of the season, learning a thing or two. We're still working on deciding what I need from the car and what the engineers can give me. So I think that we had a good test at Barber this last Monday, earlier this week, and I think that there's a lot that we can learn here as well with the driving style that's required and then the sort of setup baseline that's required. Having that road course tire be a little bit different this year just from the different compound from Firestone will be interesting to play with through the week.
So specifically about this track, I'm hearing a lot of conversation we're picking up from our cameras. Turn 17, almost like a little jump. What is that section like?
Yeah, I think you guys got a video of me going through there. You see it right here. Yeah, it's just that transition to the short chute right there. There's kind of the two tracks converge right there. And I think that transition just causes the car to launch over the curb. So it's definitely a challenging spot on the track, but the car seemed to handle it pretty well. I mean, landed straight and was able to make the turn just fine. So all is good.
Hey, your car's leaving. Go catch it. Time to go back to work. Stingray Rob.
He liked that replay as much as we did. As we climb aboard the Verizon Chevy, this is Will Power with just 24 minutes to go. Not only is this guy good behind the wheel of an INDYCAR, well, last night there was some entertainment, lovely dinner for us all, and guess what he decided to do? Decided to show everybody one of his passions, got up there with the band, told them of what he could play, had never played this song, Stevie Wonder track, and got up there and mixed it up, looked like a pro.
I was talking with Max Pappas last night about the benefit of racing simulators for drivers to just keep themselves sharp. And one of the points I made was that in our daily lives, get up in the morning, you're making a coffee, you're preparing breakfast, whatever, our hands are busy, but our feet are dumb. They just stand, you're standing there in the kitchen not doing anything. When I see Will Power playing the drums, it reminds me of the benefit that I'm sure he experiences that I think a lot of other drivers benefit from now with the advent of racing simulators at home, which is keeping your feet smart on a daily basis. I know that sounds kind of weird, but if you think about it, our hands are constantly in the art and act of precision and doing things and working on that dexterity, but a lot of times our feet aren't doing much. Even if we're walking, we're really not doing high-frequency movements. So whether it's playing the drums or working the racing simulator, I think there's a real benefit for drivers to keep your feet busy and in a challenging situation when you're not in the racetrack, which candidly is a lot of the time.
Remember, you see drivers in other series, most notably Formula One, they'll juggle a soccer ball. A friend of mine worked for one of the sports companies, sports psychology, physiology, etc. Worked with a lot of F1 drivers. He said you've got to wake your feet up. You've got to do something to wake your feet up before you get in the car.
Well, as a former aerobics competitor, you know a thing or two about that.
You were you?
Oh, there's always a high kick just around the corner. Newgarden, the last to really get after it in anger, but he's caught up. 7 laps so far, but just 21st, a 41.2 the quick time, but his last lap a 41.3. So maybe they're going for the consistent setup here. Take some of the sharpness, some of the edge out of the race car and work on good long race pace. Let's ride for a few corners, especially through this fast section.
It's kind of more squished together, but that turn 10, 11, 12, 13 complex is a little bit like Silverstone's Maggots Beckett's complex.
Yeah.
More condensed.
But I'm saying wow because when we watched that onboard, it was really interesting. Newgarden seemed to have a lot of understeer. But there's 8 laps on this run, presumably 8 laps on the tires, and Newgarden just did his fastest lap at a 40.9. Everybody else we've been watching is doing this, sliding all over the racetrack, back into the car, wagging everywhere, chasing the race car, where Newgarden, they're going the opposite direction, and they're engineering some understeer into the car at the beginning of the stint to principally take care of the rear tires and not make the car so pointy. That to me suggests that the Tasty Twos would like to taste a little cash on Sunday, that they're preparing for the end, the last 5 laps of that 20-lap race broken up into 2 segments.
It's been a bit of a discussion. I don't think I've asked you yet so far this weekend. How big do you think these guys are going to go for it for the big cash? People are saying, well, it's a non-points race. I don't think people are going to do anything silly. Or do you think it's going to be gloves off, going for it as hard as they can? At the end of the day, they're racers. There's a lot of money on the line.
I think you forget about the money. You take these 27 guys, put them in the parking lot with RC cars. They're going to be just as fiercely competitive as they are for the Indy 500.
Yep.
It just doesn't matter. That's how they're all wired. And the cash is nice. Reminds me a bit of when Newgarden won the $1 million, right? He was like, oh yeah, that's a cool bonus. I mean, it's really all about the achievement and the result and being the best at the end of the day, although this doesn't hurt. $1.756 million, the total purse, and that's how it breaks down.
And just like that, we're almost at the end of the opening 2-hour open test. There's 18 and a half minutes left in this first of multiple sessions. There's going to be another 3-hour session later today. You'll see it again here live on Peacock. It's at 2 p.m. local, 5 p.m. Eastern for you to join us. And that'll be a 3-hour session. If you're looking for a way to spend, if you're on the East Coast, looking for a way to spend your Friday night, there's going to be a good 3-hour chunk of INDYCAR open testing in the lead up to this weekend's Thermal Club $1 Million Challenge.
Just had an update from the sushi bar diff that your rainbow roll is almost ready. Just in time for the end of this session.
Good. And just like you so generously did and shared your thoughts with us during this first session about who you think may win the $1 Million Challenge. In the next session coming up later on, that 3-hour session, we're just share your thoughts. Fire in some questions. Maybe it's about the venue, the setup, this non-championship points race, the scope of the season. A lot more ovals in this year's NTT IndyCar Series. Whatever it might be. It could be thermal specific, $1 Million Challenge specific, or it could be about the championship in general. You can fire in your questions and we'll try and get to them because we got that session a little later today.
17 laps on the day for Alexander Rossi. Right there with his teammate for a quick time, 39.7 for Rossi to a 39.9 for O'Ward. There's some fire on the left front of Marcus Ericsson, the 28. With some hot brakes. Let's take a look at this replay, Jeff.
Have a look, front left. Oh, yeah.
Legit fire.
We saw that on, we had a fire rear right, Christian Lundgaard's car in St. Pete.
Oh yeah, time to pit. Time to pit. I don't know if he can see that. He should be able to.
It's alive and not well, and it's not going anywhere either, I don't believe.
Hey, Kevin, you're on pit lane with Scott Dixon. He's probably watching what we're seeing. Curious what he thinks of that.
Kev?
I guess we got audio issues for Kevin as Marcus Ericsson presumably has either seen for himself or heard from his team that the left front is cooked as he starts to slow down. Yeah, you still see smoke coming off the left side of the car, but he's all the way over, just exited turn 6. They probably told him to take an extra lap slow to just try to get some air flowing without much demand out of the brakes and see if he can bring things down. Typically, you'll have temperature alarms either on the wheel or also on the pit stand that'll fire off at certain threshold levels to let you know that you have an issue. Let some traffic by, and we'll see pit in here in just a couple corners.
So Ericsson's now headed to the Andretti Global pit after that fire that finally got extinguished itself. Last 14 minutes, Alex Pallot's been at the top for the majority of this session. And there you go. Have a look at that. That kind of sets the scene for you on just how picturesque this venue is. Set on almost 200 acres. It is just spectacular.
So you look to the south there, and over our shoulders to the north, the snow-capped mountains up by Big Bear, San Bernardino Mountains. I mean, where else are you going to find, what are we, 75 degrees, absolutely perfect conditions, and then snow in the backdrop? March in Southern California, truly unique. That's that's got to be 80 miles of visibility.
It's a nice postcard for your home state, mate, isn't it?
We have just about everything here.
So the Andretti Global guys are going to work on this Delaware Life Honda, checking out the front left of Marcus Ericsson's
that
car.
Carbon fiber rotor shroud, totally fried.
Have a look at this. This is the moment they saw it for themselves to say, oh, look at all the pieces just falling off.
That thing is smoked.
Oh, yeah.
You have to wonder if something came loose on the shroud or cracked, and then it started to contact the rotor to generate the fire, as opposed to just too much temperature creating the issue.
We'll quite often show you some really great images of glowing discs, but you don't often see one of those shrouds kind of disintegrating like that.
On board the Gainbridge car here, Colton Herta, number 26, the nose cam. Good visibility out of the nose cam too. Let's ride.
Been some good laps turned in this opening session. Nolan Siegel, the young rookie, the teenager here from California, some 23 laps. Colin Brown, 22 laps. Same for Tom Blomqvist. Got some replays coming your way. This is Pato Award. This section's awesome. Whoa, 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 whoa. Good catch.
Loose on the way in, but it looked gripped up through the S's. I wonder if they threw a new set of tires at Pato Award there, because he was pushing.
Yeah, he sure was. Getting back to the workhorses, Kiffin Simpson, 27 laps. Alexander Rossi.
Man, that does not look comfortable through there. 18 laps in total. And you have to think that that's not new tires. That's Rossi hanging on at the end of the stint.
That was commitment plus.
Although his last lap, a 39.7, so maybe that is sticker tires for both of the McLaren drivers we just showed you.
Who else has done some good laps? Scott Dixon, 21 laps. Kiffin Simpson, 27. Santino Ferrucci, 20. Alex Palou, the fast man, 23 laps. Churned out in this session as we ride again with thanks to Mission Foods with Alexander Rossi.
Same section here. What's it like this time? Took the edge off. Just took a bit off it there. And it worked. There's the lap count. Kiffin Simpson, I think the quickest of the rookies right now. He is.
I didn't think it was like less comfort. It was just more like, I thought it was easier to like, whatever you did with the brake, it would like, if I did more trail brake, it would like, a bit more. So I could control more than that with the foot. Okay. And in 9, it seemed better. Like, less loose. Yeah. Okay. Less like that. Okay. So going back on the data, we'll talk about it. Yeah, we'll talk about it. Okay. Yeah, that's sort of roll set. I don't know. No, we don't have a roll set. Okay, yeah. But, oh, yeah, we have rockers we can do. Yeah, we'll talk about it. Okay. I want to talk to you. They're on the different rockers.
There you go, a little bit of eavesdropping with Felix Rosenquist and his team. That's what a quick trackside debrief sounds like.
Yeah, just reading body language. They seem pretty happy, like they know where they are. They understand what happened with the race car when they made changes. They have ideas in mind for what they might do this afternoon in the second session. So building on that confidence and success that they had in St. Pete, Meyer Shank Racing off to a good start in 2024.
Speaking of good start, yes, it's only an open test session. It's free practice, so to speak, but the Ridgeline Lubricants, this bright green Honda of Alex Palou has been the quickest so far today.
Maybe a new tire run here for Christian Lundgaard too. 14 laps complete. Maybe not. Looking pretty loose right there. So he was on fire just about 5 minutes ago. Made it to pit lane. Sit down to Kevin Lee. Learn more about the plight of Marcus Ericsson this morning.
Yeah, and you guys spotted it, and he continued. How long were you on fire before you knew you were on fire?
Yeah, we saw it on the lap, and I just had to do a cool down lap to come back in. But it looks more dramatic than it is. So I think we should be all fine.
So what causes this? Is it just overheated brakes?
Yeah, we just trying some different things, and yeah, I think we overdid some stuff with the brake cooling there. But that's why we're here. You know, it's testing. We want to try out some different stuff, so that's part of the learning.
Well, it's still a new process for you with the new team. Just one race weekend and limited testing. What have you learned so far?
No, I think we've had, the transition has gone really well for me. I think the winter has been extremely good for me and the team. I've been gelling with the car and the 28 group very well. I think we showed that in St. Pete, fast 6 and running in the top 5 for the first half of the race until we had that issue. So, we've started off strong. We obviously need to keep pushing. It's a long season, and that's why it's good. Come here, have 2 days of testing, and then, the challenge in the end of it. I think that's perfect for me with a new team.
This is a very different type of test. You do what's a lap at Sebring? Like 51 seconds or something like that? Do you like this kind of environment for a test?
I think this track is really good for testing. I think the issue we're having a little bit is the tire deck is quite big, so it makes it a little bit hard to do multiple runs on a set of tires. So that makes, Sebring is quite good there because you can get a lot of runs out of one set of tires. But I think, though, with the high tire deck, they should make for some good racing. So, hopefully on Sunday, we will see, especially on the 20-lap race, when we have one set of tires for 20 laps, that's going to be tough. So keep your car underneath you. So I think that will create some good racing. But yeah, for testing purposes, the track itself is really good because it has a good mix of low speed, high speed, change of direction. But yeah, the tires are definitely a challenge to keep underneath you.
Thank you, Marcus.
Okay.
Again, somebody else saying, when we get to Sunday for the $1 Million Challenge here at Thermal, it's going to be interesting. 20 laps divided into 2 10-lap segments with a 10-minute halftime break. It's going to be fascinating. There you go. It's kind of, this is very much lifestyles of the rich and famous.
I believe that's
right in front of you.
That's Hinch rolling in.
It is.
He'll be with us soon. Guy, if there's luxury, he's going to find it. Might have been one of those Honda jets.
Rinus VK off track in the Ed Carpenter Chevy. Nothing too major. He was able just to continue.
This is over in turn 6, and no, Oh. Leaving that chicane in turn 5 in the back end. I wonder if that was triggered by just too much of the big apex curbs that you see. Really, that's the biggest apex curbs you'll see here is in turns 4 and 5. Tail wagging.
Massive snapback on Rinus VK. Final couple of minutes of this session. Good portion of the field are already back in pit road and are out of their cars. There's only 5-6 cars on track at the moment, finishing off this first of multiple open test sessions. Again, we'll have a 3-hour session for you later today, 2 p.m. local, 5 p.m. Eastern, and again it will be live here on Peacock leading into the weekend and qualifying the split groups, typical road and street course IndyCar qualifying, and then all leading into the 2-heat format on Sunday, where the top 6 from each heat will go through and vie for the $1 million challenge here at the Thermal Club here in California.
ECR crew will go to work, taking a look at VK's car. I don't think there will be any damage there. Back on board here with Colton Herta. Just a minute left. Probably will be his last lap. How many has he done today?
15. That'll do for this session.
Sits
for the
13th on the chart as Colton Herta comes in, and might wonder where does that, as tires wear, where does it go? Some marbles developing. Not too bad after a 2-hour test session with 27 cars. That's pretty normal. This is turn 10.
High tire degradation. That's going to bode well from an entertainment standpoint on the weekend. And speaking of the weekend, here's the schedule for the rest of the day and tomorrow and Sunday. We'll be with you again 5 p.m. Eastern for the second session of the open test, and then sessions 3 and 4 from noon, and then 4, and then qualifying will be at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. local tomorrow, and it all leads up to Sunday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern on network television for the Thermal Club $1 Million Challenge. Can't wait. 20-lap race, 2 10-lap portions with a 10-minute halftime break in the middle for a... it's going to be a fun weekend. It's going to be a really fun weekend as we revisit who did what in this opening 2-hour session.
Yeah, what a session it was as well. My thanks to NBC. Josh T is going to take you through the next one alongside NBC's coverage, and that comes up in a couple of hours' time. Thanks for your company. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.